Mary, did you know? Good morning. Good morning, sir. Great I am, Mary. The land will leave, the land will leave again. Good morning. You two go and sleep. Mary. Only go and sleep. Oh. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is 3 a.m. Nigerian time. If you are in Canada or North America, I know it's still a bit of night. It's already a new day in Nigeria. This is PFthinks from Praise Forward International Studio, Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you, everyone who joins me every day on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. I'm so grateful for the gift of you. Now we ended a session on common mistakes married men make yesterday, and today we start a new series on the science of parenting a WHIZKID. The science of parenting a WHIZKID. Now, I do not mean WHIZKID, the musician. Okay, I'm talking about parenting an effective child in the 21st century. I asked you guys to send to me what you would want me to treat, and parenting was huge on the list of what was sent to me. So I'm going to be doing a series on parenting, covering different aspects of parenting, and I hope this helps you. I'm going to give you an offer tomorrow on how you can transform your children in 21 days, and I hope you take that offer. I believe you can. So thank you, everyone. Once again, the science of parenting a WHIZKID. Now, you would realize that the greatest crisis across the globe is a crisis of parenting. Every time you see a leader trouble a nation, right? That leader must have been produced from a family, must have been raised by a parent, right? So when you see bad behavior in governance, it's often due to what the parents fail to effectively do in the formative years of the child. A child that is traumatized will traumatize his generation. A child that is abused will most likely grow up to abuse others unless an intervention is created. Sometimes a lot of people are hurting. They hurt others in so many ways. As a matter of fact, I see a whole lot of people creating new movement, and at the base of that movement is pain. So in this entire series, we're going to be delving in deep down into why we parent the way we parent, especially in Africa, and what we need to do differently. Now, I love to start by reading a poem to you. This poem is a summary of what I think parenting is by Khalil Gibran. It says, "Your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of lives longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer seeks the make upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrow may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he also loves the bow that is stable." Now, that's the summary of parenting, that your child is arrow. You are the person who is going to shoot the arrow. But if you are not stable as a parent, you may destroy the arrow without knowing. Now, I played a song that many of you know as a Christmas song that says, Mary, did you know that your baby child will save the world someday? That every child is a savior. I believe that every time humanity cries about an issue, God responds to that situation by sending a child into the world. So every child, I believe, is a solution to a problem. The challenge is oftentimes a lot of children never become solutions to the problem they were sent here to solve because of the kind of family they fell into. That a lot of us, by ourselves unknowingly, we have killed too many talents that could have become the greatest WHIZKIDs that exist, without knowing. Not because we are wicked, but because the people that also raised us killed us. Now, a WHIZKID is a child that is special. A WHIZKID is a child with a solution. A WHIZKID is a child, who is precocious. A WHIZKID is a child who is able to deliver extraordinary results. Now, one of the greatest crises all over the world is the crisis of parenting, because many people became parents were never prepared for it. Think with me for a moment. Imagine all the women, all the girl children who were born in the era of Stone Age, where we felt it was a man's world, where we felt that all a woman could do was cook and make babies. Imagine all the girls who were born in that era that God has sent here with a solution to a problem. Imagine how they died giving birth to babies, making food, without rising beyond that to fulfill the purpose of their birth. Imagine what our world has lost. Every time you see a crisis in our world, it is proof that someone has not released the solution that God has sent, because your child can become imprisoned in your family without knowing, because of your culture, because of your rules, because of your worldview, because of your religion. You can actually bind the soul of your heart, of your child, and imprison him such that you domesticate him to become totally different from the reason for his birth, simply because you do not appreciate or recognize who your child is. Let me give you a typical example. Imagine you walk into your child's room at 2 a.m. at night and you met your daughter sleeping with her two legs to the wall. How will you interpret that? Now, if you are white, or if you are from America, US, or Europe, you may not interpret it, negatively. But if you are from Africa, especially Nigeria, and if you are Yoruba, you will most likely interpret it as in, my child has joined the witchcraft and has gone for a meeting. Now, how does putting two legs on the wall, translate to joining witchcraft or going for a meeting? Right. It's a function of the movies we have watched and which has decided or conditioned our worldview about things. So instead of standing aside to try to understand, could it be a better position? Does this make for blood flow? Does this improve sleep? Is this a new innovation? Instead of asking questions that human beings should ask, many of us will take a position and you go and beat that child. Consistently, parents take position about what they have not fact found, about what they don't understand, simply because that's what culture dictates, that is what religions dictate. So we label a child consistently. So you have a child, you say, Junior, stand up, he sits down. Junior, stand up, he sits down. Because he's not obeying you in quote, you call him rebellious, you call him arrogant, and you slap him, or what I call, you give him a right hand of fellowship. You're not going to pause to ask, what is going through your mind? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? You are not likely going to ask any question, because you have concluded that beating is what it takes to correct a behavior. If beating is actually what it takes to correct a behavior, how come you are not applying the beating to your husband who is still misbehaving? How come you are not beating yourself when you misbehave? So we pretend as if only the child deserves to be beaten, only the child misbehaves, when all of us are misbehaving. As a matter of fact, the misbehavior of the child is a mirror of what they have copied from you. Now, if I pray for you that may you raise a Mark Zuckerberg, you would say amen. All of us want to raise Cristiano Ronaldo. We want to raise Mark Zuckerberg. We want to raise Elon Musk. We want to raise Nnamdi Azikiwe. We want to raise Jeff Bezos. We want to raise Gandhi. We want to raise Mandela and Oprah, and Awolowo. We want to raise Martin Luther King Jr. We want to raise Bukayo Woshika. We want to raise Mother Teresa, right? But the cost of raising these children, right, is something we're not willing to pay. I always ask a lot of Nigerian parents that if Mark Zuckerberg has been born into your family, most likely Facebook will not have come to be because you would have conditioned Facebook out of him. So every time he goes to hack into people's whatever in his school and they report him, you're going to beat him. That's going to totally forget about computer or about programming, right? If Bill Gates were to be your child that you have sent to the most expensive university and it drops out in year 2, thereabout, you are going to almost disown him because we do not have the capacity to process things at a bigger level, at a higher level, and because our environment is also toxic, right? It is imposed on us to do what is wrong that we think is right. Religion has imposed all kinds of beliefs in us, right? So a Mark Zuckerberg will end up maybe as a drum set player in a church, or he will be reciting, chanting Quran, and we will be comfortable with that, right? We will say he's serving God. Meanwhile, it may not serve the purpose for which he was born, which is higher than your religion, right? That God is not religious. God is above religion, which is why God sends the rain on every kind of religion, Muslim, Christian, everyone find expression in him. The same way your child has got a potential that can produce a product that the whole world can use. The Muslim, Christian, Hindus, Buddhists, everyone, every expression of God that exists can actually find succor in the solution your child brings. But when you domesticate a child in a particular way to fit into a particular mode, you kill the power the child has without fact finding what the child contains. That the first skill in parenting is not sending a child to school or slapping religion on a child, is the skill of observation, because your religion can actually inhibit a child from becoming the best version of himself. Now, if you look at a child that was Bill Gates and the adult that was Bill Gates, the question is what happens between infancy and adulthood, right? You would realize that what happened was handling. How his mother and his father handled him. Go and study Bill Gates. I've studied his parenting, studying various parenting templates that has produced global icon. I have seen the same pattern in all. As a matter of fact, consistently, the role of their mother became so critical. So Bill Gates' mom was more influential in his life. Elon Musk's mom was more influential in his life. R. Kelly's mom was basically the one that raised him, right? And so if you look at the R. Kelly that was a child and the R. Kelly that became a global singer who was later alleged to have molested all kinds of girls that is now serving a jail time, you will find pain that R. Kelly at the age of 5 was left with about 5 other women living in their house by his mother, and they would take turns to rape him and sleep with him, right? Even at that age, that R. Kelly lost a critical friend in his life to flooding or something at the age of 11, who was his first girlfriend, and he never recovered from that. So every time that he sang, even though his song was a plea for help, we saw it as music dexterity, right? So you look at the man, and we have now tried to pretend to see the totality of R. Kelly's life is his mistake or his error, which is born out of pain from his past. There is no excuse for his behavior. I'm not excusing him. I'm only saying that we do not look at what a man has done. Can we look at why and how and the pattern that is responsible for who he has become? Everyone goes through an engineering system. Many of us are products of what our parents have produced. As a matter of fact, when people say to me, this is the best version of me that I could have been, I say it's not true. If you were born in Iraq, your name would have changed, your religious belief would have changed, your worldview would have changed. If you were born in Saudi Arabia to the king of Saudi, your lifestyle would have totally been different from what it is right now. If you were born in America, born in China, born in Japan, you will be totally different, because your name, your worldview, your culture will be totally different from what it is right now. What happened between the childhood of Hush Puppy to the adults that he had become? Before Hush Puppy was arrested, every time I saw that young man on social media, the question I asked was, what was stolen from this young man that is trying to recapture as an adult? Every time I see him display, I saw low self-esteem. I saw someone that has suffered deprivation who is now trying to convince himself that he has arrived. Now, no child was born bad. They become bad by a number of factors that could have been prevented with the right system. So I am going to start a series today by asking you 3 questions. 1, who taught you about parenting? Number two, in whose culture were you taught? And number three, what has been the report card of the culture that taught you? Now, every time I run a seminar and I'm asking this question, who taught you about parenting? People tell me their parents. Who taught your parents? The parents' parents. Who taught the parents? By the time you go back, you will find that the template that was handed over to you was a template that was created in an era where the life of the male child was superior to the life of the female child. It was created in an era where there was no IVF, where there was no adoption. It was created in an era where there were funny cultural beliefs, and that is the template that many of us are still using to raise our children. For example, if you're from the Yoruba-speaking West African part of Nigeria, right? One of the the philosophy about parenting is found in our song, which says "Omola Sholaye," which means a child is a cloth that covers you. So an average woman who has no biological child feels naked, and they go from pillar to post. So the culture actually labels them as barren. Now, a lot of them are likely going to lose their husband. So when some of these women, meanwhile, some of the men are the ones who have problems. A man has a rectal problem, right? The wife is going for prayers. As a barren woman, the man sits at home. Who has the problem? Even when they say people believe in God for the fruit of the womb in our churches, right, to stand up, only women stand up, as if women can impregnate themselves. These are some of the downsides to our culture, right? So what happens is the woman now finds a way to go and inseminate herself, either artificially or from away matches, right? And when we now discover through DNA, we now hound her and we call her an adulteress, but we do not fact find, or we do not take cognizance into the culture that makes a woman who doesn't have a child feel like a plague that should not be touched. Right. Now, if your culture says that a child is a cloth that covers you, now question is, how great can your child be when all your child does is to cover you? So you realize that a lot of the esteem of the child, of the mothers, is tied to their child, which is why when a child eventually gets married, a lot of mothers relocate to their children's house to go and be causing trouble there. Because when your esteem is tied to your child, you will not know that your role as a parent is a caretaker. Your job description is to groom a child to become the best version of himself and to release him. Your child is not a retirement plan. Your child is not you. It's not your husband, right? Your child, you need to detach and release a child. The release is where a lot of us struggle, because we never learn to release a child, because you think of the investments you have spent on the child and you think the child is obliged to take care of you. There is nothing wrong with that. However, I tell parents, plan your retirement plan without your child, so that what your child brings is honor and not what you live on. Do you understand? Now, who taught you about parenting and in whose culture were you taught? Now, if the culture that taught you about parenting was Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, or Zulu, or whatever culture, now the third question is, what has been the report card of the culture that taught you about parenting? Now, if you check the global scheme of things, when it comes to innovation, invention, when it comes to productivity, creativity across the globe, if you check the report card of the culture that produced you or taught you parenting, and you can't find the products of that culture occupying the highest level of human existence, then that culture needs to be troubleshot, and that culture needs to maybe be tweaked a little bit. Because let me tell you, culture is the way of life of the people at every point in time. Your culture can sabotage you. Your culture will determine your worldview. It will determine your belief system, and your culture can totally destroy you the same way it can destroy your child. Now, imagine a culture that says that children whose mother died at childbirth are witches and they kill those children. Imagine how many solutions they have destroyed. Imagine a culture that says that a child does not look into the face of an adult. Imagine how many children are going to be messed up as a result of that belief system, right? So if your culture has not produced result, it's not a time to be emotional. It's a time to be logical and be result-driven, data-driven, to say, if my culture is not producing the result I want, then it's high time I check that culture. Now, in my research, I have realized that Americans, Asians, Jews, and Arabs have a clear agenda to take over the world. So if you check their parenting template, they spot the core potential of the child and educate that child without emotions to become a part of an indispensable race for our world. So the Jews have a parenting system that terminates at age 14, where they conduct the ceremony called the bat mitzvah. Bat mitzvah is when they know who a child should have been at 14, what a child would have known, what a child would have been exposed to, the mentoring system, the developmental system. They know that the child will go for military service maybe at about 18, right? So they put their hands on the child at 14 to say, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased, right? The Japanese have the same. The Arabs have something similar, right? What these guys are doing is to raise children who becomes a part of an indispensable race for our world, which is why when an Indian leaves India, they are leaving India to go and extend the frontiers of their country. When a Japanese leaves Japan, is going to extend the frontiers of their country. When a Chinese leaves China, is going to extend the frontiers of China in whatever nation they find themselves, which is why you see them collaborate to buy up companies, to own franchises and take over and buy up straight. Go to UK, you will see Chinese, you will see Indians buying up areas. Come to Nigeria, you will see Chinese buying up land. It's called land grabbing. Go everywhere, you will find them, right? But when a typical African leaves Africa, most of the time it's not to extend the frontiers of Africa or Nigeria or Cambodia or Ghana. What we are doing is to run away. Now we are running away and we're not planning to come back. And even when we get there, we never settle and we never sit down to look for opportunities. What we first do is we get a job, we buy a car, we get a house, and we begin to snap picture and show the people at home that I have escaped. Oh, I am now better than you. The parents testify that my child is abroad. We do not care who the child becomes abroad. We do not care the capacity of Africans to collaborate and do things together. As a matter of fact, one of the bane of our culture is our inability to do things together. So we can't collaborate. We always believe that I need to become the big man so that every other person can follow me or can worship me. That my bigness must be defined by their smallness. That if they are big, they will threaten me. So consistently, what we do is to search people instead of elevating them to become the best version of themselves. What we do predominantly in Africa is that we educate a child to become independent, to be better than his mates, and good-natured, even if it means serving others for the rest of his life. So you see our song, Emini number 1, Iwani number 2. Emini mama koko Jerry Sagbara Oluwa. What the means is, I am number 1, you must be number 2. I am the first to testify to the goodness of the Lord. Now, if you check the Indian culture, the Japanese culture, they talk about we must testify. Our culture, the Chinese culture, the Japanese culture, the Indian culture. But what we sing is me, myself, and I. So as long as you are testifying, you care not about people who are in pain. So when they say Boko Haram kills 20 people in Kano, we do not care as long as we are not bothered, right? We go and testify. We dance the following day. If they say 1,000 dies at bomb blast, on Saturday, we must dance on Sunday. Now, it shows that we do not care. We are not bothered. Question is, if you were the one bereaved, will you dance? You will not dance, right? So we have not been structured by our culture to collaborate. What our culture has done is to put us in silos. But the global world knows that as long as you work in silos, you cannot be powerful, because the power that created the universe is the power of us. Come, let us make man in our image. Now, our culture is not built for us to collaborate. In Nigeria, for example, the only time collaboration happens is where corruption is concerned. As it stands today, we do not collaborate to build franchises, to build conglomerates. We always want to be the only one, right? Instead of having 10% in what goes global, we want to have 100% in what dies local, which is why everybody wants to be CEO, which is why the message of fire your boss becomes the boss of yourself trended so well in Nigeria. Retire rich, retire young, trended in Nigeria, even though the man that wrote the book has not retired. The script, therefore, is that while some people will produce those that own the world, others will produce those that will serve those who own the world to create the world of their desires. So if you check your desires and patterns, you will see this clear script. You want your child to get a good job after school so that he can do what? You do not care about your child taking over that company, collaborating with others to buy up the company. As long as your child earns 10 figures he can buy a house for you, he can take care of himself, you are successful, right? Forgetting that some other people are growing their children to take over the world, to be indispensable to the world. When coronavirus happened, you saw a lot of our religious leaders fighting Bill Gates. Even Americans, some of them were fighting Bill Gates. But Bill Gates was given back to by a parent. How come your name is not the one they are fighting? How come our name is not the one they are fighting? How come we are the ones fighting them? How comes we are the ones raising propaganda upon propaganda on a child that was given back to by a parent, raised by a family? Who have you raised that the world can fight, right? We are not thinking like that. What we are thinking about, Bill Gates is a threat. So we have arrogated power to Bill Gates. Suddenly, he's the president of the world, despite the fact that he's not elected into any political position. He has no army. All the guy had initially was Microsoft, but he has grown himself to become so powerful that he has become indispensable to all of us. Now, so you need to pay attention to what I am sharing. Where are you? Where is your child? And how do we flip this script? If you don't master effective parenting, as a matter of urgency, you will damage your child thinking you are building them, and you will destroy the very strength of a child thinking you are a parent. So a lot of us are damaging our children unconsciously, right? So you see a behavior that you don't understand. Instead of you to troubleshoot and observe, what you do is you kill it because you say, this child, if I allow this, you may not serve God. So a lot of scientists are killed by religion simply because we don't understand the invention they're trying to build. A woman told me that she used to play a lot with water, and her parents took her for deliverance because they said she has mommy water spirit. What if she was an oceanographer? What if she was a bigger version of Michael Phelps, right? We do not think beyond right and wrong. We do not think beyond silos. We forget the shades of grace that exist. Now, parenting is a science that can be taught and mastered if we open our mind to deploy the best strategy that delivers the desired outcome. A child that has not embraced its real identity becomes susceptible to all sorts of vices. Dysfunctional children didn't produce themselves. They are the report card that of the world we have created, right? So a lot of us do not know our children. We do not know the milestones to expect. So I always ask parents, the first time you held your child in your hands, how did you feel? A lot of them will say to me, I felt so excited. So I asked them, as you held that child in your hand, did you say to that child, the way I'm holding you right now, when you are 5, the kind of slap I will give you, the whole world will know that I can slap, right? Or did you say at 7, the yelling I will yell at you? You never said that. You were excited. But what happens was you were not psychologically prepared for the developmental stages in the life of your child. So when the child was not crawling, you were worried. Now the child is crawling and is pulling things down, disrupting things, and you say the child is disruptive, right? Not knowing that it's age-appropriate behavior. The child now gets to work and begins to run around, turn the house upside down. You now begin to shout and yell. He spills water at the age of 4, you beat him. You do not know the difference between expected behavior and bad behavior. So what we do is we beat a child for being a child. We destroy a child's curiosity. Is asking so many questions because your child is an innovation. You can't answer those questions. You call him names. You call him I too know. You call him keep quiet, and all kinds of things. So if you even check our educational system, is designed to stifle the potential of a child. Who is the best behaved student in every school? Is the child who never troubles school, who never asks any question. So a Bill Gates will never become the best child in any of our school. A Mark Zuckerberg will never become the best child. A Martin Luther King Jr., look at all the world's icon. Elon Musk, they will never have emerged as best behaved or student of the year in any of our school. Why? Because they are the ones troubleshooting, causing chaos, asking questions. Meanwhile, one of the hallmark of a child is curiosity. Ability to ask questions. The moment your child is no longer asking questions, you have totally destroyed that child. So here are a couple of questions I will ask for you today, or a task. I want you to go around, look for 5 people that knew you before the age of 10, and ask them if they have to say something about you or their fondest memory of you. What will it be? What's their greatest memory of you before the age of 10? Now, look for another 5 that knew you before the age of 20. Repeat the same question. Look for another 5 that knew you before the age of 30. Repeat the same question. Look for another 5 that knew you between 30 and 40. Ask the same question. If you are 50, look for another 5 than you before, between 40 and 50, ask the same question, right? Collect what they have answered for you. You will be shocked at how much you have grown away from yourself. The only time many of us were ourselves was before age 10, right? If you check what they said about you before age 10 and what they said from age 10 and above, you will see what has happened to you. Now, what pattern can you spot from their response to you and what happened between the real you and the you that you have become? Because the you that have become was the you that your parents conditioned you to become, and that is the you that is now troubling your child. So if care is not taken, you are going to condition your child to become exactly like you. You would have destroyed him the same way the people that handled you destroyed you. Now, our parents were not bad. They did the best they could with what they knew. But a lot of them unconsciously damaged us. They damaged our esteem. They damaged our confidence. They put us in an environment that destroyed us, put us in the hands of aunties and uncles who messed us up, right? And a lot of us may not even recover. But that is on one side. They put us in religion that messed up our brain. Preachers, speakers who destroyed our ability to think, that an average person is trying to think but cannot think because his mental faculty is totally messed up. We hardly talk about that. They put you in a culture that messed you up, that did not promote your potential. They put you in schools that you don't understand, in the hand of teachers who have low self-esteem, who couldn't stand the students asking questions. Now, the other thing I need you to do today, I want you to observe your child intentionally all through today as a student, not as a parent. Pick a sheet of paper and pen and try to observe and write down what you're observing in your children. I need you to do that for yourself today, right? I'll be interested in your result. I love a quote that says, a child is like butterfly in the wind. Some can fly higher than others, but each one flies the best it can. Why compare one against the other? Each one is different, each one is special, and each one is beautiful. So please today, try and observe your child without judgment, because the sense of judgment that has been imposed in our belief system through culture or bringing religion, which has damaged us to label people that we don't understand, it has already destroyed many of us, right? So what I need you to do is to begin to pay attention to your children. Observe from a vantage position. Observe their play. Observe their discussion. You will begin to see the signal your child is sending. Every child is sending a signal. You need to pay attention intentionally to that signal. Now, there is a signal. There's your ability to pick the signal. There's your ability to interpret the signal accurately. Because if you interpret the signal wrongly, you will damage your child. Many children have been taken for deliverance, to deliver them from their purpose, to deliver them from their potential, to destroy their talent, beating them in the place of deliverance simply because the parents do not understand them. Some of you need to go back home this morning and apologize to your children because you were not taught parenting. You didn't bother to learn. You've been parenting unintentionally through trial and error. Your child is a specimen, which is why a lot of firstborn children usually suffer in Africa, because they were the specimen in the experimental lab of parenting. And you know the specimen never survives, right? So parents learn better with the second and third and fourth child, right? But some parents even are repeating the same mistakes. So you need to calm down and realize that the first person to save is not even your child. The first person to save is you. What has happened to you? You need to heal from your pain so that the child in you can be aligned with the adult you have become, and you can become whole again. Once you become whole again, then you are ready for parenting. I'll come back again tomorrow and I will take on different aspects of parenting. It's going to be a long ride. I hope you are ready for this long journey with me, right? Trust me, it's going to be, I'm going to shake a number of tables. I'm going to challenge a lot of thoughts and convention, but trust me, you'll be able to raise a child who is a WHIZKID, who is a blessing to his world at the end of the day. And some of you, your children are already grown. It's never too late. You can always rewrite your history. You still have grandchildren that you can parent. A lot can still happen to you, but you need to heal. You are like the aquarium. Your child is like the shark. The shark will not outgrow the aquarium, which is why the belief system you impute in your child is critical, right? A lot of us have sabotaged our children, limited them by religious, cultural, and all kinds of funny beliefs that we don't even know where we got them from. Your child can become a global icon. He can become the best version of himself. Every child is a solution to a problem. The question is, will you release your child to become the best version of himself? I'll see you tomorrow. Well, let me leave you in the hands of Motswedi Modiba. This one, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Let me leave you in the hands of Princess. She did a cover of Whitney Houston's Greatest Love. I hope this helps you and this calms you down. We will see tomorrow 3 a.m. Don't miss it. Tell all your friends. We are going to learn how to parent a WHIZKID, the science of parenting. Parenting is a science. It can be learned. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye. Okay, someone is saying 2 top parenting books. I have a book, Out of the Box Parenting, and you can go on my site. There's a lot of information and courses on parenting there. School.iampraiseforward.com. 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 So many materials on parenting there that you can take. You can go there, and there's a book, Out of the Box Parenting. I recommend that strongly. I'll see you tomorrow. Nice to be